There has been times in history where nations' leaders have been on the mental decline. We see this nowadays with Donald Trump, who is definitely on the mental decline, and with Russia's Putin, who is definitely on their decline too. But where have we seen this in history? Today on the Continuum, I'm going to tell you the story of Wilhelm II and his psychological catastrophe. This is the Continuum. At the dawn of the 20th century, Europe stood at the height of its power. Empires stretched across continents. Science, technology, and industry advanced at breathtaking speed. Yet, beneath the surface of prosperity, old rivalries and nationalistic ambitions and military pride simmered. And in the center of it stood one man, Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany. He was the grandson of Britain's Queen Victoria, cousin to Tsar Nicholas II of Russia, and a ruler of a nation rising rapidly in wealth and strength. But he was also deeply insecure, prone to violent mood swings, and desperate to prove himself to the world he believed mocked him. His reign would take Germany from unity to ruin, and the world from peace to a catastrophe of the First World War. Wilhelm was born on January 27th, 1859, in Berlin. His birth was traumatic. He was breech, his head stuck inside his mother's womb. Doctors used force to pull him out, leaving his left arm permanently damaged. That arm, shorter, weaker, and partly paralyzed, would haunt him for the rest of his life. Wilhelm's arm was more than a physical disability. In the Prussian military culture obsessed with strength and discipline, it was a daily humiliation. He couldn't ride a horse properly, he struggled to hold a sword, and at the very beginning, Wilhelm felt inadequate. His mother, Princess Victoria of Britain, was strong willed, intelligent, and fiercely critical. She pushed Wilhelm to overcome his weakness, but her strictness often felt like rejection. Wilhelm grew up believing he had disappointed her, and by extension, his powerful grandmother, Queen Victoria herself. From an early age, he developed what psychologists call today a compensatory complex, an obsession with projecting power, masculinity, and dominance to cover up his inner doubts. Wilhelm's childhood was marked by instability. He could be charming and energetic one moment, and violently angry the next. Court tutors described him as hypersensitive, unpredictable, and prone to cruelty. At school, he studied military drills, engineering, and history, but his greatest obsession was with uniforms, parades, and the image of the soldier. He practically saluted in front of the mirrors, adored the pomp of the Prussian court, and dreamed of leading armies to glory. Yet, beneath the glitter of the ceremony lay deep insecurities. Wilhelm craved affection from his English relatives, but often felt ridiculed. He adored his grandmother, Queen Victoria, but resented her power. He envied Britain's empire and navy and grew convinced that Germany was destined to surpass them. By his teenage years, Wilhelm had already displayed signs of a volatile adult he would become. Brilliant in flashes, insecure at heart, and dangerously erratic. In 1888, the year of three Kaisers, Wilhelm's grandfather, Wilhelm I, died. His father, Friedrich III, inherited the throne. But Friedrich was a liberal. He was also gravely ill with throat cancer. He reigned only 99 days before dying. At just 29 years old, Wilhelm became Kaiser of Germany. His early decisions shocked Europe. Though Chancellor Otto von Bismarck had forged Germany's empire with cautious diplomacy, Wilhelm soon forced him out. This was a cruel turning point. Bismarck understood the delicate balance of power in Europe. He wanted Germany to avoid war, to remain secure through alliances. Wilhelm, however, believed he didn't need the Iron Chancellor. He was impatient, headstrong, and determined to rule in his own image. By dismissing Bismarck in 1890, Wilhelm removed the one man who might have restrained him. Wilhelm's personality shaped Germany's destiny. His withered left arm left him obsessed with proving his masculinity. His rejection by Britain left him torn between admiration and resentment. His volatile temper made him unpredictable in diplomacy. His greatest obsession was naval power. Inspired by the British Royal Navy, Wilhelm ordered a massive shipbuilding program. Battleships, or dreadnoughts, became Germany's new pride. But the naval arms race with Britain was a disaster. Instead of impressing his English cousins, he drove Britain into an alliance with France and Russia, encircling Germany. Here was Wilhelm's paradox. He longed to be loved and respected by Britain, but his actions only deepened hostilities. He believed he was playing a grand game of power, but he often undermined his own position. Meanwhile, Wilhelm's public statements revealed his unstable mind. In 1908, during an interview with the British newspaper, he ranted about Germany's enemies and boasted that he was "friend of Islam." The Daily Telegraph affair humiliated him, embarrassed his government, and confirmed to the world that Germany's ruler was dangerously erratic. In June 1914, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo plunged Europe into crisis. Austria-Hungary looked to Germany for support. Wilhelm, eager to prove himself as Europe's strongman, gave a blank check of military backing. At first, Wilhelm encouraged Austria to be firm against Serbia, but as tensions escalated, he wavered. He proposed mediation, then reversed himself hours later. His generals and diplomats were left confused. What historians agree on is this: Wilhelm's indecision and paranoia deepened the crisis. He feared Germany was surrounded by enemies, and concluded that war was inevitable. In August 1914, Germany marched to war, believing it would be quick and glorious, but it was neither. At the start of the First World War, Wilhelm appeared as a commander-in-chief. He wore his military uniform, gave fiery speeches, and promised swift victory. But his generals quickly sidelined him. Real power passed to Hindenburg and Ludendorff, Germany's military leaders. Wilhelm became more of a ceremonial figure, while the generals dictated policy. As the war dragged on and millions died, Wilhelm grew more detached. He ranted about Jews and socialists, accusing them of betraying Germany. His mood swung between boasting of victory and despairing over defeat. By 1917, he was almost irrelevant to the war effort, a king without the authority in his own empire. By 1918, Germany was collapsing. The army was in retreat, the navy was in mutiny, and the workers were rioting in the streets. The generals told Wilhelm the truth: the war was lost. But the Kaiser refused to believe it. He raged against the traitors, calling for crackdowns and fantasizing about turning the tide. Finally, under pressure from revolution, Wilhelm abdicated on November 9th, 1918. He fled across the border to the Netherlands, never to return to Germany. His departure marked the end of the German Empire and the birth of the Weimar Republic. Wilhelm lived out his days in exile in the Netherlands, chopping wood at his estate and writing his memories. He never admitted responsibility for Germany's collapse. Instead, he blamed Britain, France, America, diplomacy, and above all, Jews. In his later years, he watched Hitler rise to power. Though he disliked the Nazis personally, he admired their nationalism and their hatred of Jews. By the time he died in 1941, he had lived to see Germany once again at war with the world. Kaiser Wilhelm II was not sane, but his life was defined by psychological wounds: a crippled arm, a cold mother, constant humiliation. These breed insecurity, vanity, and paranoia. He was brilliant at times, but erratic and reckless. He sought love and respect, but drove nations into hostility. He longed for greatness, but led Germany to ruin. And so, the story of Wilhelm II is not just the story of one man, but it is a warning that when fragile minds of a leader become minds of a nation, the cost can be measured in millions of lives. With so many nations leaders nowadays on the mental decline, with the regime of Donald Trump and his mental decline being put on full display, Vladimir Putin's decline being put on full display too, we see that weak men and weak leaders are leading strong nations and leading them into ruins. Join me next time on The Continuum, where we look at Sultan Ibrahim I of the Ottoman Empire and his mental decline. Until then, this is The Continuum.